Township. Some months ago, there was a discussion about the mold and mildew problem. And my understanding was that you did source that ventilation needed to be improved. So I'm asking what progress has been made on that matter.
Thank you. We'll see if there are any other questions or comments. Maybe, yes.
Not in relation to that, though.
No, whatever you have.
Oh, sure. So in past prison board meetings, there was a discussion of the broken boiler and the situation with the heat and whatnot in the prison. And then also, I think 2 prison board meetings ago, I had brought information about soap dispensers, since that was my name is Beth. I'm from Lebanon.
Thank you.
The soap dispensers, and the warden had said she would check into that and get back. So I wanted to hear about that. And I can start with those and wait and hear how the meeting goes.
Okay. Any other public comments, questions? Then I'll ask, Warden, are you prepared to respond to any of those or give an update? If not, we could do it later, but go ahead, please.
Thank you. Spoke to CGL. They were working on cleaning through some of the ventilation systems. We identified Block 5 and Block 4 are our next projects. They're currently working on some kitchen maintenance, some painting and cleaning that needed done in that area. So the plan is for the month of March to identify either Block 4 to start with or Block 5 to start with the ventilation, and then cleaning out. CGL had to present some items to their engineers to get some feedback. They will be prepared at next prison board to give a much more in-depth presentation on that topic, but we still are working towards a plan of action. We've still been increased cleaning and keeping up with the weekly new cleanser that we've found to try and keep the showers with reduced mildew, soap scum, etc. But we do have a plan of action we're hoping to start implementing next month, starting with those 2 housing units.
So if I could stop you there just to kind of piggyback on it, because
Yep.
I had to deal with a mold issue
Yes.
myself on a property to say it's one of those issues, we're aware of it, we're taking steps, but then it's something you have to continually monitor and see if it's effective, and continue to stay after it and continue to monitor it. So does that answer your question, sir, for now?
Yeah.
It is.
I'm going to have to check on the closed captioning. My hearing is very poor.
We can talk to you after the meeting then.
Right, thank you.
Sure. Now, on the other issues?
The boiler issue, I believe that CGL has the boiler issue rectified. CGL is working with Danielle Emmerich to get 2 more bids for the heating units. We were able to come up with 1 bid from a local vendor, and we're trying to work with Danielle Emmerich to get the other 2 necessary bids because of the cost that came in for the first bid. So the boiler or the heating unit system is still being identified. Our boiler system has been rectified.
Okay. So and just to clarify, Warden, if I can recall from some of the notes you were sending us to keep us abreast that we were kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, that we have very old units and weighing how much do you invest in these older units versus replacing and upgrading. So again, aware of the situation, working through it.
Yes, CGL will be prepared to give an update on that for the on-site prison board next month.
And then the soap dispensers?
So in the research of the soap dispensers, I'm still working on that. My understanding is I hear what was presented as far as the safety and security factor. The other part of it is cost effectiveness. I understand that there might be people from the community willing to donate towards that. I don't know if that's necessarily a need. And talking to some of the other wardens and facilities, they tried to go this route, and then what happens is the individuals that purchase their own shampoo or conditioner, then they take their bottle and then they continuously use what's provided for the indigent folks and replenish their own. So I am my commissary contract. We're in discussions, and some other prisons handle it a simplified way, which is looking at just adding the shampoo product to the commitment. That way each incarcerated individual gets one shampoo at the beginning, so they start out fresh and clean, and then it's just a matter of if family or friends want to continue to help them have that product. So it's not an off-the-table conversation. I am still just trying to work at numbers and seeing what's the most cost-effective way to be able to see that through.
And to manage it appropriately, and to those who truly in need, get it to those. And,
Yeah, yes.
So, okay, thank you.
Me?
Yes, that's
If you had the dispensers, wouldn't a way though to stop people who were buying shampoo just don't have that product for sale? And everybody uses the shampoo that's provided, the soap / shampoo that's provided, just as another alternative.
If you have a suggestion of another way to manage it, maybe again take that offline and make a contact with the warden and present your idea. Can explore.
Yeah. I'll do that. I can email it to you. As far as the heat, I guess, you know, I've been coming. Well, some of us have been coming to these meetings for a long time, and I understand the pickle that you guys are in. But at what point do we, as a county, start to consider that? You know, I've taken economics classes, and at what point as a county do we start to consider that the current facility that we have is just a money sucker, and that in the longer picture, in the bigger picture, building a new facility, you know, rather than continuing to sink money into this facility would be economically more sound for our county. I realize, you know, making a decision to build a new facility is something that takes a lot of time, and obviously the people who are there right now need heat. They can't wait for a couple years to have a new facility, but it is something to consider, even when you're purchasing things, if they could be repurposed in a new facility, or you know, what could be done. Because, I mean, I've heard just time and again that the facility that you're currently in is just not meeting the needs of our community in the way maybe it should, as far as getting attorneys in there to meet with people, meet with their clients. There's no space for programs. We're talking about a ventilation system in the showers. I understand, it's my understanding that at least in some of the showers that there's stuff dripping off the ceilings after they shower, that to leave the shower room, that there's stuff, when you talk about mold, dripping off the ceilings, and there's no ventilation in there, which is what the warden's talking about, and that's more cost. Adding ventilation is more cost to a building that's antiquated and it's just not serving our needs. So I don't even know if those discussions are happening, but it is possible maybe they should be starting to happen at this point of that facility.
Well, again, we can take that into consideration, and again, it's not a decision the prison board would make up on the same people. It would be addressed at the commissioner meeting ultimately, but that would be a huge expenditure for the county. So yeah, it would take some time and studies, and no, I can tell you, I'm not actively involved in any research into that at this moment. Again, we realize the building has its deficiencies, and it's how old, maybe 40, 50 years now. It certainly, you know, it could be better, but we think it's adequate for now. I do, anyway, and we're going to try to invest and try to make it better.
Well, when a county undertakes, like Lancaster County is in that process, when a county undertakes something like that, where does that research and that conversation even start? Like, where does that, like, how does that process even happen? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know either. It's probably gets down to this: how much are you continue to invest in this property? You know, until you actually decide we need a newer facility. Sir.
Yes, Joseph Duke, and I live in Lebanon City. Does the prison have a depreciation plan? Usually with an older building, you know, there's a plan that says this was in this state, and this was in this state, and this is going to last so long, and so you can kind of see where the hits are going to come over time.
Is that what you said CGL is going to be presenting?
So during budget time, in my budget packet, there was a packet of information that if we need to have a later date meeting set forth, it included, I don't want to use the word assets, but it included what CGL was able to so far do with that management system, and it kind of laid out our facility as what they've known since they've come on campus, and laid out quality of life or state of life for equipment and such. And then that's what we do at budget time. I, as the warden, take like the top 5 or top 10, and at budget time I sit through a budget meeting with the commissioners, and then they have to look at what their financial allowances allow for capital budget projects. And then we've been trying to like chip away at what is considered a priority, and then put what's maybe not a priority on the back burner until I either am able to find a grant or we can come up with some kind of financial situation, you know, to meet the needs. Anything that's of emergent state we've been addressing and we've been proceeding with. The heating system is a concern. The heating units, there's 2. There's one that was working. There's one that hasn't worked in quite some time. Again, it's a cost factor, but fortunately for us, that heating unit is located in a central location where it's not directly impacting a housing unit per se. It impacts maybe our kitchen area, our gym area, and we try and, you know, adapt to the inmates' needs as far as like Deputy Warden has hats, we give jackets, we monitor how long we have individuals in those areas, because again, we understand that it's cold. So I think in terms of talking about long-term building facilities, the commissioners would have to have a discussion about if they would want to have, is it called a survey done, or have like maybe invest in a consultant that would come in to basically say, make a presentation, and then again it would be up to the commissioners to decide if there's any different direction to go.
You know, just being involved in many school projects, the first place you start is it worth renovating this facility? What's the cost to bring it up to scale to really meet our needs, or what's the cost of a new facility? That's where you start with, like we did with school projects, for example. But
Beth, I'm not personally looking at replacing the prison at this time. I see a building with a firm foundation and cement or block concrete walls, and paint and maintenance, regular maintenance is going to be required on a new building. I think that what we are addressing are things that are going to wear out no matter what the building itself does, and it hasn't been used as hard for years because of COVID. You know, the population is about half of what it was. So to embark on a new prison at this time just doesn't make sense to me. If we were overcrowded, you know, I'd have a different point of view, but that's not the case. The trend is more and more to help people function in the community while also serving their sentence. It might be an ankle bracelet to allow them to go to work. It could be going to a counseling session. It could be getting your high school equivalency diploma. You don't have to be incarcerated to do those things. And so I personally prefer what the courts are doing to have people still being productive members of society than investing money in another building. It just doesn't make sense to me at this time. But thank you for the question.
Another comment. I think when we talk about a facility, it isn't just about the brass knuckles of a boiler system and a ventilation system and everything else. We're also talking about what they're able to do in that facility to help people to come out in a better way. And when we look at the recidivism rates, I had a conversation with the warden some time ago, and she said from the time that she started there, she actually sees grandchildren and children and parents who are in the facility, and we have they put in the report every month about the people who are just in and out of the doors. And in past prison board meetings, we've had conversations about having maybe a whole section that they were just doing drug rehabilitation and those types of things, or a section where people who have mental illness are able to be segregated, where they're not exacerbating their illness, but they're actually helping them to get medicated or get therapies or things like that. At one point, Tom talked about maybe like a trailer or something that's on the grounds to do, I don't remember which it was, or if it was mental illness or drug rehabilitation. But I'm just saying, it isn't just in the facility itself, it is in other things, such as, are we turning people out that are better than they were, so we don't have this revolving door where it's costing the county a lot of money. And that would be a study worthwhile doing, is how much does it cost the county when people are not being like rehabilitated, and they're just being made worse. The problem's exacerbated by the situation. So just something else to keep in mind as you think about these things.
I think group homes are an appropriate place to address what you're suggesting, that they can be worked with one-on-one as the day progresses. And Jubilee is great at that sort of thing. Those are the kinds of things, again, I prefer rather than building another prison.
Rather than debate the idea, I think you've made your point,
Yeah.
and it's on the radar screen, and I think it's not the first time that somebody brought up, you know, at what point do you look at replacing it. I just don't think there's an appetite right now, but I think, again, you made your point. Thank you. Sir.
Yes, Joe, again, I just wanted to mention that I've worked with Jubilee in Celebrate Recovery with addiction, and Jubilee does not do anything with mental health. So they can do the spiritual things, they can talk about the addiction, but if it's mental health, they don't allow their people to come to groups that I have because they have mental health issues.
We do have mental health support and through our medical
I
provider.
understand that.
Yes. Thank you. Anything else? So we'll move on to approval of the minutes from our January 17th meeting.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions or comments about those minutes? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Warden, the floor is yours for your report.
Good morning. I want to thank you, Commissioner Kuhn, for dropping off false nuts for the staff.
How to win friends and influence people.
Yes, it's it goes a long way. Staff is appreciative of those little things. That's a big thing. So I want to thank you for thinking of the facility and the employees, and they enjoyed their
Fresh
false
nuts.
Yes,
They're hard
who
to
doesn't?
beat.
Yes. As noted a little bit earlier, we are seeing a little bit of an increase in our population, ebbing and flowing 289, 309. Again, I believe that's attributed to a lot of the courts opening and the influx of writs coming from different facilities and coming and going just to get through the court system. We did have our CQI meeting, and we talked about quite a few topics specifically related to mental health, but I'm going to defer and have Tom Weber speak on that.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but could you not use an acronym? Could you use the terminology?
For which word?
CQI? What are you saying?
Continuous quality improvement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom Weber. I have nothing further unless the board
Okay.
has any questions.
Questions, additional questions for the warden? Okay, thank you. From our deputies.
Nothing unless there's any questions.
We have those
I
reports.
just have a change to my prison board at the top. I put the wrong month on there, so it should read 1/1/24 to 1/31/24.
So noted.
Other
Thank
than
you.
that, I have no question, or no add-ons if you have any, unless you have questions.
Any questions? Not? Okay.
Oh, actually, well, I'm not sure who to ask it, but I have a question when you're at the appropriate
Go ahead.
time. Oh, well, I wondered if you could do two things for me. Just give me a very brief overview of our Medicaid policy, number one, and number two, do we have night hours for inmates to report to probation? Did we ever consider that or try it if we don't? Those are my two questions.
Do you all understand about the Medicaid? As far as I understand, it was legislated that you're not eligible for Medicaid when you're admitted to a prison, correct?
That is correct. There's a federal prohibition of funding anyone who's incarcerated. However, Pennsylvania has addressed the financial burden that places on county correctional facilities through Act in 2011. There's a mandate that if you're outside the facility, I mean, we do not get reimbursed Medicaid, Medicare. You pay us for the services rendered within the facility. If someone requires treatment that is not able to be provided in the facility and they have to go out, if they are receiving inpatient treatment, it is paid at the Medicaid rate. If they're receiving outpatient treatment, it's paid at the Medicare rate. So there's a cost buffer that is then passed along.
Okay, so in Pennsylvania, we do not receive Medicaid funds for our prisoners.
Unless it's a juvenile. Unless it's a juvenile.
Okay.
Regarding your question about probation and parole, I'm not sure the question because I work at the jail, so none of our folks would be reporting to probation and parole
Okay.
Upon release. I believe upon release.
Ask Audrey that question.
Yeah.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'd like a moment just for Tom Weber to please give an update from Prime Care, just about our mental health.
Sure. I was going to go a little bit. Let me address a couple other things just very briefly before that. Fortunate to report 0 incidences of COVID in January and up till February. So that seems to be going well. MAT, medicated assisted treatment, the program's still going well. We had 27 participants in the month of January, broken down between a buprenorphine product or methadone. In terms of focusing on mental health, approximately 70% of your population is identified as either a C or a D rater. Again, the C's are receiving active mental health following. The D's exhibit serious mental illness. So 70% is rather significant. 51% of your patient population is on psychotropic medications. We had approximately 600 visits with psychologists and psychiatrists in the facility in January in-house. So they're following frequently a large number of these individuals. We have noticed and have not been able to identify the cause of the trend, but there does seem to be a significant uptick in the presentation of a significant mental illness in the female population, particularly at the facility. We've seen increases from our typical suicide watches for a month from 13 up to 17, 20 a month. We've had some more significant attempts occurring. In evaluating these individuals, it's been determined that all, if not all, the vast majority, in fact, are an organic mental health presentation as opposed to some type of behavioral issue that may be going on and resulting in the unusual behavior. Just wanted to provide some information regarding suicide intervention in the facility. It is a Prime Care policy that if there is a serious suicide attempt in the facility, that they be transported, the patient be transported to an outside facility to undergo an evaluation to make sure, despite their ability to recover from the attempt, there isn't some lingering either medical or psychological problem that continues to present as immediate concern. So if anyone attempts a hanging that results in ligature marks, they are to be sent to the hospital. If the attempts were through some physical means like banging their head or the like, before we can do any type of intervention on our end, we want to make sure that there's not something insidious going on that is not readily apparent. So they will be sent out, and we know, particularly with staffing throughout the Commonwealth, but here as well in Lebanon, that those send-outs do place a burden on the correctional staff. But we're pleased to have the support of the ward in recognizing it's paramount to ensure the safety of those individuals. So that is being done, and we will continue to monitor those individuals. And I'd like to commend Commissioner Litz on her comments about community involvement. If there is a feasibility study done, resources in the community, I would love for the funds that would be required to spend on a new jail, if they're not going to be spent on a new facility to improve our capabilities within the walls, that there's a recognition some of those funds need to be spent in the community, because the lacking of resources on the community level is, in my humble opinion, what is leading to a lot of these individuals ending up incarcerated as well, as opposed to being somewhere else.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very informative.
Can you give an example? I don't quite understand what you said.
We have people in the facility right now that are suffering from serious mental illness, that the only reason they're being held is there's no safe place in the community to place them. So if we had a bed, if we had a long-term care facility that was willing to accept them, they're on probationary violations of parole, minor detainers, that I believe administration has discussion with the courts. They're not safe to be placed out the door on their own because of their mental health manifestations, but that is in fact the only thing that is having them remain in the facility.
And if you look what's happening in the community, Jubilee, I've visited their facilities here that they have, and they do a great job. And they're trying to expand now, but they're getting a lot of pushback from that township that residents are concerned about having it in their backyard. So
it's gotten to a point where everyone recognizes it's a problem, but no one's recognizing it's my problem or our problem.
yeah,
Well, I think it exacerbated, if I can say the right term, when a lot of our state mental health facilities started closing. There's not enough room to get the treatment that was needed.
Certainly, I believe the philosophy when the decision was made to close those facilities, rather than transporting individuals around the state to remote locations to receive care, that it'd be more humane for the treatment to be rendered in the local community, was a fantastic goal. Unfortunately, this Commonwealth has a habit of, when funds are freed up for one purpose, they get diverted before they ultimately make its way to that purpose, whether it be the tobacco settlement, whether it be casinos that are going to reduce your real estate taxes, and we've not seen any reduction in real estate taxes. The money gets sucked up from some other interest group before going for its intended purpose. Again, in my humble opinion.
Thank
it's been an issue that CCAP, as the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, have been lobbying for many years. Jamie, what's the stat you quoted? It was about 10 years ago where they actually reduced the amount of mental health funding.
2013.
Yeah, 2013 it was reduced and flat funded since that time. So we've seen the need to continue to rise. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge for everybody. So,
Could I just reiterate what Joe Duke said? You keep coming back to Jubilee, and I think Jubilee does a good job and they have a good program, but they're not the be-all, end-all.
No.
And Jubilee does not handle mental health patients.
right.
So that's what I think Tom was saying, is that it's 70% of the population need mental health options, and that's definitely not Jubilee.
Yeah.
That's not Jubilee's not.
Jubilee's a
They do
valuable
a good
resource
job,
for one
yes,
thing, but
they
yes, we all agree. They're not the be-all and end-all. It's not their responsibility. God bless them for what they're doing.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that 12-step programs have often been very successful for some people. However, my understanding is their lack of a location in the facility greatly restricts the possibility of that. And so coming back to looking at the building and perhaps either adding space or reconfiguring space. Has there been just a work group or something that has gathered and looked at the picture and had discussion over a period of time to try to address that?
Well, just as a starting point, maybe, Warden, if you could find out what counties recently upgraded or built a new prison in the last 5 years or so, if we can find any, and and the approximate cost and the size of those. That might be interesting to just start.
I just want to take a step before that, maybe. I was thinking of CGL, what it would cost for them to just evaluate the life of that facility and give us, because we really don't have a feel for when a building's been added on a few times, some of it's, 20 years old, 30, that kind of thing. I'd rather let the folks that are working on it, they give very, detailed studies of what they're doing. But just to get, what would the cost for them, what would the cost be to the county for them to do such a study, just to give us an idea of the life of the facility, and we could go from there.
Maybe we could have them kind of meet at a workshop or something.
I'd like to note one thing. The facility currently does have 12-step program confirmed by my deputy warden of treatment. Our chaplains run the 12-step program currently. Secondly, I believe CGL did do a presentation, or when we were entering our professional service contract, I think it was $40,000 for them to do an assessment. At the time, it was not feasible to do so we took a step back. Now again, we could revisit that. We could also make a time maybe during one of the workshops to look at what, it's hard for me to present without CGL here.
No, I'm not
no,
asking.
no, but I mean,
yeah.
to that form that they did, that was during budget and part of the packet, they might be able to go through that a little more thoroughly and specifically to give a, just a little bit more of a clearer picture of what the facility is looking at from what they're seeing.
I'm betting we're going to be looking at $40-50 million, something in that ballpark, easily to do a new prison, and then you have other issues like where does it go and who's going to want it in their backyard, and
I think
all kinds.
Lancaster's
It's very
estimate's 10 times that.
Yeah, okay. So,
We own it, it's paid for, and so maintaining it is just the best solution that I can come up with.
I don't know how we
Well,
can say that
anyway,
until we see what the life of it
I think
is.
you placed it on the radar, so we can do a little more research to see, and maybe meet with CGO. Anything else for the good of the order today?
Just one quick addition to the discussion. Part of the discussion perhaps could consider moving the district justice office out to another location, so to free up that space.
Thank you. Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So,
Adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.